Hi, I'm Steve Williams and this is Scooter and the Sticks. Today I'm going to take advantage of this unseasonably warm weather and wash the dirt and grit off my Himalayan. I've had this motorcycle for over 1,000 miles. About 70% of those miles were done off the pavement on dirt and gravel, and that's why I bought it. So after having this and experienced it, I'm going to take a look at, was this the right choice for me? So let's have a look. I'm just taking the Himalayan out for a familiar ride to exercise it. I try to keep periodically putting 15 to 20 miles on it to keep it running fine through the winter. It's also my first real ride with the grip covers on, and I've already noticed a couple things about them. It's pretty easy to work all the controls in it, but I noticed that it was entirely possible to have the grips hit the engine kill switch. It took me a minute to realize what had happened when I couldn't start the bike. So I much prefer a tripped kill switch to a dead battery. Now, some of the things I wanted to talk about in this episode is what I think of the Himalayan after 1,000 miles of riding. I bought this motorcycle primarily to use up in the mountains on the dirt and gravel forest roads that are plentiful in this part of Pennsylvania. And I have to say, it has exceeded my expectations. Now, a lot of people, when they look at the specs on this bike and read about performance, their focus seems to be primarily on power and speed. And I have to say, if we're riding up in the mountains here, this has more than adequate power and speed. I'm not judging this bike's performance by how fast it will go on the interstate highway, how quickly I can pass a car, things like that. As any of you who watch my channel know, I tend to be a slow, methodical rider, and I use the motorcycle or my scooter as a way to experience the world, see what's out there, and the faster you go, the less you see. So as a rider, I'm just not someone who rides for the exhilaration provided by the motorcycle, if that makes sense. It's late in the day. I washed the bike. I didn't get around to lubricating the chain. I'll do that tomorrow, but I wanted to get out while there's still light before the deer come out. So as I think about this motorcycle and why I bought it, I'll run down my list. First, I chose this one because of the way it looks. Every time I look at this, I'm reminded of old pickup trucks or CJ5 Jeeps. It just has a durable appearance to it, and I like that. Another area that interests me was simplicity. This is a simple mechanical motorcycle, aside from the electronics to illuminate the lights and horn and provide ignition. It's very simple. No modes, no weirdnesses. It's just simple. Now I know it has this Royal Enfield tripper on it, which I don't use. To me it's just a clock, but that simplicity translates into me being able to pretty much service most of the routine maintenance myself. Valve adjustments and checks, oil changes, things like that. One of the other aspects of this motorcycle that was important is I wanted it to be lightweight. Now at 420 pounds, that's not light compared to my scooter or towards in comparison to a lot of dirt bikes. But this thing feels much lighter than that. And since I often ride alone, I wanted something that if I fell down somewhere, I could pick the bike up on my own and I could manage. And this meets that need perfectly. And I guess I should add the price of this motorcycle to the list. Now, I wasn't restricted in terms of cost to which motorcycle I chose, but I have to say it's remarkable how inexpensive this is to purchase new. It's slightly over $5,000 new. Now by the time you add freight and fees and things like that, taxes, it was over $6,000 out the door, but just barely. And that was pretty amazing. Now I guess the most pleasing things I found about owning this motorcycle is the ride itself. It is easy to ride, it's comfortable, no quirks or strangeness to worry about, no overabundance of power to be careful of. I don't have to worry about twisting the throttle too much or too suddenly and have the front wheel come off the ground. The throttle is not seductive on this bike. I've ridden motorcycles like the Ducati Hyper Motard and some of the Triumphs and the BMWs, and there's so much power available that it's hard to resist not trying it out. And this bike isn't like that. I'm quite content to putt along here at slow speeds, look around at things, see what's happening, and I'm never like twisting the throttle when I see a straightaway and say, wow, I wonder how fast I can go. Because I know how fast it'll go and it's not going to be thrilling. So all of that has been quite pleasant. Its performance on the dirt and gravel roads, even with these stock tires, which are Seats, very pleasant. I can cruise along at 35 to 50 miles an hour on the gravel, and it's very easy on those roads. Off-road, on single trails and Jeep tracks. Again, this motorcycle has outstanding torque at low speeds. It just pulls and pulls and pulls, and that's a much better I shouldn't say better, it's easier way to ride than my friend Paul on his KTM 390, where to get the torque you have to have the RPMs up a little higher, and it's much easier to stall out when you're picking your way through a single trail. Again, a lot of that has to do with experience and skill, but for me, at my skill level, this bike is perfect. This is an example of one of those straightaways on some motorcycle. I would twist the throttle to see how fast I can go. I don't do that with the Himalayan. Beautiful evening. Ooh, don't want to go through the water. The big question is, would I buy this motorcycle again, knowing now what I know, having ridden it for 1,000 miles? And my answer is an unqualified yes, I would. This has been probably the most fun I've had on two wheels, excluding my Vespa scooters. Of all the motorcycles I've ridden, even the ones that fall into this category, like the KLR and some of the smaller BMW GS bikes, this one is my favorite. And it just feels perfect. Perfectly reliable. Not fussy, not overly complex. I don't worry about the thing breaking down and it costing an arm and a leg to fix it. And I should say I've had no problems with it so far. But yeah, it's a great bike. You can see how the melt comes across the roads here. If the temperature drops below freezing, there'll be big patches of ice in the morning. And it's why I don't ride the motorcycle, because it's a little harder to handle on big sheets of ice. I can manage the scooters across that, but I wouldn't want to do it with the motorcycle. The other thing with all this melt is I should have waited until I went for my ride to wash it, because my fear is it's going to have more salt and grit on it now than I did when I left. Well, there'll be other warm days coming along that I can wash the stuff off. I'll jump on the freeway just to run the bike at a little higher speed for a short period of time. Been out long enough that I don't really need to, but sort of an excuse to ride a little longer. O'clock, traffic's get heavier here. I'm back in Boalsburg. Home sweet home. So that about wraps it up for this episode of Scooter and the Sticks. Until next time, be well and ride safe.